Hello and welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV with me, Meoni. This time we're looking over Live Letter Part 66. This is the pre-Endwalker information that we've been looking forward to all this time. So Live Letter Part 66 actually started at 3 AM BST and ended just after 10 past 9 in the morning my time. So you'll have to excuse me if I make any verbal mistakes, as I've been up for a very long time. And they don't really favour European content creators when it comes to making videos, so bear that in mind. If I make any mistakes, I do apologise. So let's go through this then and summarise this as much as we physically can anyway. Basically, they start by showing us the new start screen for Endwalker and its accompanying music. There's two screens from that. Essentially, the moon rises across the front of Heidelin, and it looks very, very cool. So yeah, there's that. That's the big reveal for that one. I was quite hyped about that. So there will be no PvP focus at all in this live letter. So if you were looking for PvP items or information, you're not going to get it here. There's no Island Sanctuary. There's nothing like that. It is just a focus on PvE, battle changes, and job changes and adjustments. Okay, so bear that in mind. It was many hours of just that content. There will be a second letter from the producer live in October, but we'll get to that much later. So first of all then, let's talk about those job adjustments. The plans then, they say, are to build upon the 5.0 adjustments rather than going in a completely different direction, actually building upon that. So most of this is all about without complicating things, without button bloating too much. However, there will be new elements and changes, as well as lots of new buttons as well, depending on what job. Apparently the direction is not to make these things complicated, and actually to not go in a direction of 3.0. They've seen a lot of people asking for 3.0 sort of series direction of sort of choice. They know that some people wanted that, but they're not going that direction. They're actually building on what they've created in 5.0 going forward. So to reflect that, then, they say the recast time for pretty much all of the primary abilities will be adjusted to fit into an alignment of 60 or 120 second timers. This is done to try and line things up. To note though that not all abilities in the game will be adjusted this way, as that's just not feasible, but the majority of them will be fitting that 60 or 120 second timers rather than having something like a 180 second timer, which should make for actually much smoother and quicker deployment of skills. So it should feel a little bit faster. Next up, they show 20 minutes of footage. This is the job action trailer for 6.0. These will have separate videos breaking these down from me. I don't think it's worth me breaking down 20 minutes of footage right now. Go check it out. It does look amazing, and they do basically go over just the flashy spells of each of the jobs there in that trailer. Very fantastic stuff, something else to break down. But let's go into the actual stuff for the live letter itself. And first of all, they want to talk about jobs and roles. First of all, they talk about tanks as a role specifically. So general adjustments to this role include using defensive enhancements at optimal times will grant greater benefits. So not just simply protecting yourself from a tank buster, but if you're using them in combination with other abilities, then it will be more beneficial for you and you will gain a bonus or a buff. So this includes the idea then of perhaps using cooldowns in your rotation and getting used to that and encouraging that. The different effects do offer a defensive buff, they say, that apply to you and your party members, regardless if you're tanking or off tanking. So this will be an encouragement to use those abilities. Adjustments then will ensure that combos are not broken by ranged attacks. This chain will not be broken by something like Tomahawk, for example, so you can keep your combo going without being penalized. This is something they wanted to do for a long time, and now they're able to do it. So if you have a combo and you use something like Tomahawk ranged, it's not going to mess up the rest of your combo, and you don't have to worry about that, and it frees up tank strategy, they say. There will be a parity, next of all, between the physical and magical damage attributes of weapons at the same item level. This is being applied across the board for every role, but they put it here as well, and accompanying changes to action potencies. So the base weapon damage of both physical and magical should be the same prior to the potency of the attack. So the potencies will come down as a result of this on the physical side to make up for the raise in that base. Realistically, you should see lower numbers on that potency, but realistically it's going to be doing the same sort of damage. So bear that in mind, they say, especially as we're going to see more actual numbers on screen as we go forward. Some people might look at a tooltip and go, wow, that's potency's been nerfed, where in reality it hasn't. It's just a smaller number and the base has been brought up. So if anything, it's been brought in line actually, and just the numbers don't reflect that, which is, it's fair. It's across the board a net even. So now we're going to individual jobs, going from Paladin as the start. Requisicat will now be equally effective regardless of remaining mana points. A 3-attack combo starting with Confiture will be added, they say. And Intervene now has a total of 20 yarms range, up from up 5 basically from 15. So that's going to give you a little bit more freedom. They've done this across the board with a lot of these gap closers you can expect as I read through these. Next up then, Warrior damage up effects can now be triggered and extended by AoE combos. So Onslaught and Upheaval will no longer drain the Beast gauge. A new action will be available upon execution of Inner Release, they say. The recast time of Inner Release will now be 60 seconds to fit that meta they talked about earlier. Onslaught will now have a triple charge, so 3 of those. A new action that stuns from it allows for more mobility. You'll notice as we read through these aren't all the full changes. These are bits that they wanted to highlight and some more significant changes. So those are for the Warrior. So significant changes for Dark Knights. Salted Earth will now affect the area immediately around you and make a new action available whilst you're stood in it. So now it will appear where you stand rather than having to place this with a reticle yourself, which is a big quality of life change, I think most of you will agree. Your Simulacrum will also gain a new action when you acquire one of these new job abilities, so that's going to work in tandem with you then. Plunge will extend the range to 20 yarms. So again, we've got those gap closers raised up to 20 yarms, much like with the Warrior previously in the Paladin. So now we talk about Gunbreaker. Savage Claw and Wicked Talon will now swap in for Gnashing Fang on the hotbar, reducing the number of inputs. The continuation will be able to be used following a Burst Strike. A trait will raise the maximum number of cartridges to 3. So essentially, with all that said, now you will have a 1-button combo into a 2-button combo, which is very much akin to how it is in PvP. So if you're not interested in that kind of homogenization, then I guess that's a bit of a yikes. But I suppose it is quite a nice consolidation for those of you who don't want that much button bloat on your bars. They're going that direction. And that's pretty much it for the major changes they wanted to talk about tanks. Of course, that doesn't list all the changes, but I'm sure we'll have more info on that in the media tour. Next, we talk about the melee DPS. So overall adjustments to melee. Feints effect will be changed to reduce physical damage dealt and will also reduce damage dealt. Physical damage reduction will be more potent. The adjustments will ensure that combos are not broken by ranged attacks. There will again be a parity between the magical and physical damage attributes of weapons, as mentioned before with those tanks. So the numbers will not look the same for potencies, but the damage will be the same there. So that's pretty much how Feint's going to work as well previously as well. So that's quite interesting, a few changes. Dragoon, the AoE rotation will be expanded, they say. A new action will be available upon successful execution of weapon skill combo rotations. Blood of the Dragon is now going to be a trait and not an action, so that's being removed from the game. So no need to maintain that anymore. So anything that you needed to maintain that, any kind of sort of skill ceiling for that will be taken away from you. You don't have to worry about it. Any of the actions previously needed for that will now be always available. And since Blood of the Dragon will now just be a trait instead. Quite interesting, isn't it? Spine Shatter Dive will now have 2 charges, so you can have your 2 charges and you can save one and use it when you like. Lance Charge apparently will have 60 seconds CD, and Battle Litany will be fitting the 120 second meta rather than the 180 second CD. So I suppose that's quite a considerable buff there, isn't it? Talking about monks then, chakras will now be unlocked at a much lower level. They don't specify here, but much lower. When conditions are fulfilled, Perfect Balance will now allow for the execution of a new skill called Masterful Blitz. The available blitz changes depending on the weapon skills used when under the effects of Perfect Balance. It will be kind of like a yin and yang sort of situation with a new job bar, and it kind of feels and looks a little bit like Ninja Mudras on a monk, basically. True Strike and Twin Snake will now have no positional requirements, so there's that. Some of you might be wanting no positional, so that's that direction. They're taking Shoulder Tackle away out of the game. That will no longer exist, but in its place they say they're adding a Gap Closer, which has 3 charges. You can actually also target allies as well as enemies with this Gap Closer, so you can rush to safety, etc. Much like Black Mage's Ethereal Manipulation then, but, well, a lot better, really, isn't it? So that's both, obviously, enemies and allies as well, so you get 3 charges, so you can dash around. Quite crazy, actually. It looks quite interesting on the job action trailer that I advise you go watch. Samurai then, not really much to talk about here that they have to talk about. Effects granted by Jinpu and Shifu can now also be applied by AoE combos. Thank the heavens, I think most people would agree with that. A new action in the vein of Ayajutsu and Tsubame Geishi will be available, and they're basically having a straightforward evolution of the Samurai job with just a few new actions, so not really that much is going to massively change, just new flashy buttons. Ninjas then, actions linked to Raiton, Doton and Huton will be added. An action making it easier to apply a Huton will be also added, and Shadowfang is now removed, so there will be no dot from that. That will not exist. Reaper then, so this is our brand new melee DPS, so there's obviously a lot of information to go over, but they just go over the basics. They say it uses a scythe to attack in tandem with their avatar and can serve as the avatar's vessel to unleash more powerful attacks. So you have your attacks and your avatar has its attacks, and then you attack in tandem, so then you have the ability to let it possess you and do then a new, complete, unique set of abilities as well. It's able to grant enhancements to the party, they say. That's a party-wide buff, and its unique and specialized actions give them an edge in specific combat situations, they say, such as the teleport skill shown in the job actions trailer, which allows them to place down a bit of a sort of like a teleport circle, run away, sort of teleport away from that, and then it teleports them back at the use of that skill again to wherever they left the teleport bubble. I don't know how else to explain it. You'll have to watch it in the trailer. It's fairly obvious once you see it. The top gauge then of this new job gauge is the soul gauge on this UI. You charge up the soul gauge to unleash attacks by attacking normally. This also applies to the attacks that the avatar uses. Once you unleash the weapon skills plus your avatar, the second gauge known as the shroud gauge will fill up, and when that's full you can merge with your avatar to unleash your more powerful combos. And they look pretty devastating, quite flashy, but we were to expect that anyway. For the physical range DPS slots then, the only thing to mention again is that parity between weapon, physical and magical again. They apply that to basically all of the roles. I don't know why they didn't just say all roles, but there we go, it's for all roles. The only other thing is that a recast timer on damage reduction buffs will now be 90 seconds across the board, so there's that to bear in mind. First off, Bard. This is a good one. Each of the 3 songs will make available a new action that applies a party-wide enhancement. This is kind of huge. This brings back all sorts of memories of songs having actual use. So Bard might be good again, well, in that regard. So if you're wanting your songs to be more useful, let's hope that this addresses that. They say a new action will be available upon execution of Apex Arrow, and Warden's Peon and Wanderer's Minuet are now 120 second recasts that are in that particular meta. For Machinists then, a new mechanically themed action will be added called Chainsaw. Apparently, I just have this weird image of a machinist losing their mind and chainsawing down a door, but there you go, that's one of the abilities. A new action will also be added for Automaton Queen, and Reassemble now will have 2 charges, so you'll get to choose that twice, basically, or waste it. Dancer then, weapon skill effects such as Flourishing Cascade will now be shared across single target and AoE skills. New actions will be available upon the execution of Technical Finish, Improvisation, and Devilment, so that should keep you busy. Lots of new flashy stuff. For the caster DPS slot then, Addle's effect will be changed to reduce the magical damage dealt, and will also reduce physical damage dealt. Magical damage reduction will be more potent. Again, this is the reverse of, obviously, Feint. So Addle's basically the same thing, just for casters. For Black Mage then, first of all, Enochian will become a trait that is automatically applied while under the effect of Astral Fire or Umbral Ice. So Enochian is being removed from the game. Apparently Enochian was apparently too hard for some players to maintain, so they're just removing it and adding it as a trait so you don't have to worry about it. I'm sure there'll be quite a few people on both sides of that argument, so I'll just leave that one alone. But yeah, apparently it was too difficult for players to maintain, so that's why they have changed that. They say, under certain conditions, swapping between Astral Fire and Umbral Ice will make new actions available. They wanted to evolve it as a pure DPS, so there will be no raise or anything like that in response to people asking for raise on Black Mage. Fire 2 and Blizzard 2 has a 1 step higher than those, so your AoE rotation will change accordingly. And Sharp Cast gains an additional charge up to 2. So basically, from what we saw in a job action trailer, Black Mage does have a mix of fire and ice abilities, and seems to combine the 2 together for some of those abilities from what we can see and speculate at this point. Next up, Red Mage, a new action will be available upon execution of Scorch, so another addition to that rotation. Once you get to Scorch, you'll have something else to press. The Flare, the Holy, and Scorch will be changed to AoEs, available as part of AoE rotations. A defensive party-wide enhancement will also be added, so basically they're going to give them what might be Shield Samba, basically for Red Mage, to fulfill that sort of support role on the caster side. Summoner, well, where to begin with Summoner? Basically, they say to consider this a brand new job. That's their exact words in the live letter, and there are significant changes to job mechanics, of which it'd take forever to go through here. All actions applying damage over time are being removed, so Summoner will no longer have dots. That's right, no more dots on Summoner ever. They will be able instead to be able to summon Ifrit, Garuda, and Titan, not just Eggies, the actual summons. They can augment abilities with the elemental properties of the summon they choose, so you switch into different modes depending on what summon you have up. So you do Titan-like abilities with rocks, etc. when you have Titan out. I would seriously advise you watch the job action trailer yourself. It's kind of insanely cool looking, and they get to keep Resurrection as well. Apparently that was something they were considering removing, but they at the last moment said that by the skin of its teeth they kept Resurrection, so I suppose there's that. Apparently there's also Physic staying around as well, although I'm not really too sure why Physic would stay. It's kind of useless for Summoner. They made lots of adjustments, including the display size of all of the new summons as well, so you can use your macros to change the size of them, much like you can with Bahamut. So they actually demonstrated a tiny little Phoenix and a tiny little Titan and tiny little Garuda. It's quite cute, really. But yeah, Summoner is vastly changed, and we're going to have to play around with that a lot in the future, and hopefully we see some stuff from that media tour that they talk about. Healers then. So new actions that apply single target buffs will be added to each healer. So every healer gets a single target buff. That's interesting. The cast time for offensive spells for all healers will be reduced. So they're trying to encourage you to DPS more, if you didn't get the message already. The limit break area of effect will be extended to 50 meters, so this means no more missing people with your limit break 3. Extreme Diamond Weapon says hello. That's the note here that I have written. It's very true. A 1.5 second cast time on damage abilities apparently across the board. So they're trying to bring down the cast time and make it so that you have more use of weaving spells in and doing damage. So surprised they want you to DPS. So White Mage first. Basically, a functionally visually distinct restorative field, they say, action will be added. Whatever that means. They are under the pure healer category, as they have previously mentioned. And as a result of that, we get higher tier holy spells that gives me lilies. So I'm looking forward to that personally. Fluid Aura finally got removed. I don't know why it was still in the game, but that finally got removed. Thank goodness. Divine Benison is now going to be a charge action. So that's going to be interesting. And White Mage apparently will be a smooth transition from 5.0 with only a few changes and some new abilities. So it's going to be one of the least changed. I guess if it's not broken, why fix it, you know? Astrologian next. Astro is basically being turned into a pure healer, if you didn't already know. We can get confirmation now that diurnal and nocturnal sects have been removed from the game. Basic healing actions will be adjusted to have the same effects as they would have whilst under diurnal sect instead. A new neutral sect will be added to have shield actions as well. So your shields aren't completely gone, but you know, you can have neutral sect for that. But for the most part, everything is diurnal now instead of having nocturnal. But there we go. Sects have been removed. Divinations will be changed, they say, and the seals used for new enhancements are applied to self. I'm not really sure what that means. Maybe someone can tell me below. The redraw will no longer be a charge action, but every time you draw, you can use it once. An AoE spell that was a healing and offensive part of it will be added like a size. So basically they're giving you an Assize like ability where you can do some damage AoE wise at the same time as healing. So I suppose that's to bring it in line with White Mage's Assize, obviously being a pure healer now. Let's move on to Scholars. Oof. So Scholar classified as a barrier healer. This is a unique job action being added that can enhance the party's movement speed even during combat will be added. So basically they get in combat peloton. That was the big change. The only other thing that was quite alarming is they say they mention how they haven't really changed Scholar too much and they didn't really know what they needed to change. Or sorry, what was it? I'm paraphrasing here. They didn't really have much that they wanted to change. So AoE combat peloton, anyone? I guess. There's a meme going around at the minute that's going to be called Sprint Mage, so that's quite funny. They also say a powerful enhancement will be added. That's a single target party member enhancement. So that's that single target buff that they were talking about for all healers. So Scholar, yeah, even on the job action trailer, it didn't look that good, did it? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. You know, those are my opinions. What are yours? Leave a comment below. For Sage then, because Sage is our new healer, the other barrier healer that's competing with Scholar, it says there it possesses all of the actions essential for a barrier healer, able to attack enemies and heal designated party members simultaneously. This is a spell called Cardia. You can even designate yourself as the target so that when you attack the enemies or boss, the spell actually kicks in and heals you for some of the percent of what you dealt as damage as healing to yourself or whoever you've applied it to. This is essentially Discipline Priest from World of Warcraft, if you ever played that. If you haven't, it's awesome. I'm falling in love with this job already just by what they've shown us today. Yeah, so they say Sage draws upon unique resources for healing and enhancements and attack magic. When you hit the enemy, you have a chance to proc a dot on the target, they say. Adder's Gall is the resource you build on their new job gauge, which you use to execute the instant cast barrier heals once you build up that gauge. They have a gap closer in the form of a spell called Icarus, which allows you to fly towards the target of your choice. And that was pretty badass when we saw that in action. Yes, very, very, very cool. And that was the first part, which, believe it or not, took up until 6:30 in the morning from 3 a.m. So, yeah, I've consolidated that down quite a bit already, as you can see, even though we're in 20 minutes or so of the video. I do apologize, but this is me working my hardest here. So on to the part 2 then, which was just simply called Battle Adjustments after a 20-minute break. So there will be adjustments to raid finder matching for Savage duties. Parties will include one pure healer and one barrier healer as the default, splitting pure healers and barrier healers. This also applies to party finder updates. Healer category will be split between pure and barrier healer, and a new option for players who have yet to receive weekly completion rewards will be added, so you can set it to the 2 chest or no 2 chest, for example, for Savage, which will help people find the group they want to go in. Search results will no longer include parties you cannot join due to the 1 player per job requirement. They just simply won't show up, which should alleviate any of that confusion. Duty reward adjustments. Trials with weapon drops will now drop a weapon coffer in addition to the original weapon reward. So that's good. The 4th turn of high-end raids released up through 3.x will now drop a weapon coffer in addition to the original weapon reward. This applies to Coils of Bahamut, Coils Savage, and Alexander Savage. High-end raids released up through 4.x will now drop gear and accessories in the form of coffers, as in Eden Savage. This applies to Coils, Coil Savage, Alexander, and of course Omega Savage. So those are nice juicy bonuses there, so you can get rid of some of your inventory bloat. Miscellaneous battle changes. Conditional enhancements can now be separated as a new separate category in the HUD layout. Conditional enhancements refer to the proc type buffs. This new category is in addition to the present enhancements, enfeeblements, and other categories for status effects. And as you can see with this image they show, which is much easier to see and much easier for you to maintain uptime of several abilities and procs and keeping track of those. Very nice quality of life. They've improved ground targeting functionality. They say new settings added to the character configuration menu. There are 2 options. First option is to press action button again to place a target circle, and the other option is prevent cursor from moving beyond targeting range. They have a screenshot here to demonstrate that. This is also to make it smoother for controller users, basically, and adds more choice. They can also fix issues where placement might actually be quite tricky, and ensures that whatever you press will be on screen and not a waste of time. So if you've ever tried to place down an AoE and it's been off the side of a screen and you have to click multiple times to place that reticle, that's not going to happen anymore. If you enable this, it will only place in placeable areas, and you can't, say for instance, try to clip it through a building. So that's nice quality of life as well if you choose to tick those boxes. You'll be able to display party members' targets when casting now. So if you want to know who they're rezzing or whatever, it will tell you. This will be easier to discern which target your allies are attacking or reviving, as they mention. Health bars will be displayed even when you're incapacitated. This was previously available through the always display setting, but will now be the case when using the default UI setup when HP is below 100% setting as well. So there's that. Other things, Unreal Trials will be temporarily removed. They plan to bring those back with new fights in 6.1. They say there are many candidates they can think of, and they briefly mentioned what sounded like Ultima Weapon. So that's interesting, as I can't imagine Ultimate Unreal. That would be quite interesting indeed. They talk about belt removal again, if you didn't already know. Belts will no longer be equipable or obtainable via duties and item exchanges. Belts equipped by a player character and retainers will be returned to your armory chest, and you can give those to the Calamity Salvager, and they can be retrieved individually. All other belts will remain in your inventory as is, and affixed materia and signatures will also remain, so you don't have to worry about getting your materia out before the patch goes live. They say a ring serving as a substitute for the speed belt obtained from Eureka will now be implemented. This will allow you to exchange your current belt for the ring at the release of 6.0, so you don't have to worry about wasting gil and time on the speed belt. Now it will be a ring, which is quite nice for people who did a lot of Eureka like myself. Downscaling values. This was a large part of the thing. We're not going to beat around the bush too much and drag on. The difference in gear attributes from levels 50 to 80 will be reduced. As they mentioned lots of times before, this is a number squish. The overall health and damage values will be reduced of your character and characters and enemies and everything. The potency of meals, medicine and materia will also be reduced accordingly, and adjustments to maintain balance with consideration for downscaling of various systems. When using the undersized party option, this is new, the enhanced echo effect will be applied to bring the difficulty balance in line with previous patches. The enhancement strength will vary by duty level. So this means that you'll still basically be able to unsync things just as you can right now. Just it's called the enhanced echo effect. So there you go. That answers that question that we all had. Experience gains will also be downscaled. Experience previously earned from standard dungeon enemies actually won't be given to you anymore. Instead, it's going to be tallied up and added to that as the dungeon boss from dungeon bosses. So any trash leading up to a dungeon boss won't give you XP, but the XP is instead applied to the actual boss itself. This is to reduce lag and, yeah, basically stop number bloat, which is a really good idea. So that was the second part, and then it was 7:44 in the morning BST, so you can imagine how crazy this was for me. So part 3. First of all, we'll talk about HQ item removal. Certain items will no longer be obtainable as high quality. This will prevent the unintended procurement of HQ items via gathering and other activities, reducing overall inventory bloat. They show gathered items, enemy drops, token exchange materials, and non-craftable materials obtained from certain content. These will still be in HQ in 6.0, but will not increase crafting quality nor provide bonuses upon delivery. These items cannot be traded or sold via the market board, but can be reduced to normal quality for those purposes. Items still available as HQ include crafted items and intermediary materials and the crafted gear themselves. That will all stay HQ. Actions and attributes that affected the HQ yields when gathering will be adjusted, primarily to affect item yield. For fishes, there will be a different parameter apparently that's not related to HQ. Quests, challenge log entries, and achievements requiring HQ items will also be adjusted accordingly, and they will have more information on this and more in general in the next live letter, which they say they'll be focusing on crafting and gathering a lot more than they are here. Teleportation and Ethernet updates. So adjustments to teleportation fees. The teleportation fees are being recalculated for 6.0 across the board. There will now be places that will cost more than 1,000 gil. The previous cap was 999 gil, but they intend to make that no longer the case. And it's anyone's guess how much the teleport will cost to the moon. But remember, this is why we have the Aetheryte tickets in the game, which apparently a ton of people forgot whilst this was live, as they complained in Twitch chat, but it is what it is. Updates will, however, be also made to the Ethernet UI in cities and towns and places. The UI has been updated significantly. Now this shows you where the locations are in a menu, so it's not just a text menu, it actually comes with a map. So you no longer guess where one of these mini Aetherites actually is and teleport accidentally, which I've totally not done a million times before, even though I've played this game since 1.0. But there we go. When you select somewhere on a list, it will move the map and visually show you where you are teleporting to. You need to double click on the list to actually teleport, or you can click singularly to an Aetherite on the map here when it brings up, when you click on a mini Aetherite, and it will teleport you instantly. So now we're on to the miscellaneous updates section. Progress towards Fisher's intuition will remain even after logging out. This was due to demand after the combat. This is basically to combat the logout timer that they introduced. A lot of people were complaining about this. So now even if you log out, basically you will get your Fisher's intuition. It will remember how many fish you've caught, so you'll still be able to go for your big fish and not have to start again. That's very good. They do say the logout timer will not be removed for Endwalker. They're reaching record-breaking numbers still, which is to be anticipated, and they anticipate it to be even higher with the expansion's launch, so that's not going anywhere. Due to the urgent need to address server congestion, the data center travel system unfortunately is scheduled for implementation after 6.0x, so no data center travel anytime soon for now. This is to halt any server problems that might occur at the time of the expansion release, and honestly, if you're surprised by this, then I worry, because it's kind of obvious that this would happen with the insurgence of new players, and it's not a bad thing, so I guess we'll just have to wait a little bit longer to play with our friends on other data centers. Plans for the Oceania data center, they do mention offhand, are still going ahead as planned, so stay tuned for more info on that. And that's about it for the main juice of the live letter. That took me, 34 minutes to get through, and believe me, I tried to go as fast as I possibly could and still ensure all of that information was there. So that's pretty much it for the main part of it. Next up, we have information on other stuff, including merch. So let's go through this. Merch and notices. The Tokyo Game Show 2021 will be taking place. As you can see on the slide, there's the dates. They have a stage there, and Yoshi P will be doing a stroll with Yoshi P, it's called, where you'll be able to chill with Yoshi P in the game as he visits worlds and player estates in the game of people who have created masterpieces, notably, and they've contacted them to actually talk to them and have a look around their houses. This will be streamed online. The dates are on screen. Also at TGS, there will be a special talk with Hironobu Sakaguchi and Naoki Yoshida, where they talk about the appeal and potential of RPGs, apparently, which could be quite interesting. I don't know if that's... I think that's just going to be in Japanese, though, so that might need to be translated externally. The next live letter has been given a date. It is number 67, and it's scheduled for Saturday, the 6th of November. Set the date. Unfortunately, it's going to be 2 a.m. GMT again, so another late night for Meoni. They'll be covering crafting and gathering updates, including the new PvP mode they mentioned, and much more. This is also planned to be a 5 to 6 hour broadcast, so much like this one. So I'll be sure to get some sleep next time and prepare in advance. Also, there's the weapon design contest. The link is on the screen if you want to go click that. The winners of which will be implemented into the actual game at some point, and they welcome entries from around the world. So that's going to be really cool to see what you can come up with in the game. Currently, the game has a 50% savings on the Collector's Edition upgrades. This will be available until September the 30th, so if you want to upgrade and want mounts and stuff and minions, of course you do, now's the time to do that with a 50% off. There'll be a new music album released called Time and Again 2. This is including raid dungeon themes. This comes out on September the 30th. This is a compilation of music from Omega, Yorha, and Eden. There'll be an Endwalker 7-inch vinyl single. This will be available on the 17th of November. Comes with a code for an MP3 version of the tracks included. It's a very nice collector's item. And they say the official theme of Endwalker will be also available at a later date digitally through subscription services, much like the current Square Enix music. Next up, they talk about the Y'shtola Dolphy Dream Doll. This is in collaboration with Volks. Very much famous doll makers. This is a 63 centimeter high doll that's absolutely gorgeous. I personally think. Fran thinks it's horrible. I love it. But something this quality will cost you quite a bit, as they're quite premium. You can pre-order this now for £1,000 UK, $980 or 1,169.99 euros. Yes, these will be available for delivery in December 2022, but if you want to pre-order it, you can pre-order it now. I believe the pre-orders end pretty much in November, so if you want one of these, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of them. They are handmade, so you might want to put your pre-order in if you want one. I think I might cave and get one myself. Perfect Alexander t-shirt. This is available in small up to 2XL sizes and is scheduled for release in November this year. The backside is cool. It's kind of like a comic book or something. So if you fancy this and you want to represent your Perfect Alexander clears, then this will be available starting today for pre-order. There'll be a Ronka back scratcher or a massager thing. This also comes in a Fat Cat version. Yes, I know. Details on screen if you want to buy one of these. I don't know really what to say. I didn't think there would be a Ronka back scratcher, but yeah, this is the world we live in. Dear goodness, and I don't know what to say. There will also be Reaper and Sage acrylic job stands. If you wish to add these to your collection, maybe you're collecting the acrylic job stands and acrylic stands in general. These ones are really large, as you can see by the comparison of Foxconn's hand here. These come out in 2022 in February, if you're interested. There'll be new Reaper and Sage job pins. You can pre-order those right now. These also come out in February 2022 and feature obviously the Reaper and Sage in their red and green job colours, their role colours. Looking awesome. I personally would like these a lot. I think I might get those. Next up is a Japan-only Endwalker calendar for 2022. This will have lots of Endwalker pictures inside. This releases December 24th this year. It is Japan only, but of course you can get this shipped in if you go to a second-party website, such as Ayajutsu or something like that. Lastly, they wish to remind you that Final Fantasy XV event is still ongoing, and you can take part in it before it's removed once again on October the 18th. Get your car whilst you can. Watch my videos, make some MGP, and get that car. Easy peasy. And also that the Dragon Quest crossover will be coming back to the game. This is a rerun of the same old event, but new players might want to look at this. It's quite cool. You can take part in this on October the 19th until November the 11th. You can get your silly hats, including the Wobbly Wobbly Jelly hat, the Slime hat, and your Brickman minion. If you're a minion collector, then you don't want to miss out on this at all. And that's pretty much everything, literally including all of the merch. Finishing at 9:10 in the morning here at the time of actually, the actual live letter ending, and me finishing at about 10 a.m. my time recording this video. So from 3 a.m. This video did take a while to make, and I would be incredibly grateful to you if you could press the like button to push this further up the algorithm if you enjoyed this. I don't usually ask people to do that, but I think this one time I can be forgiven for asking, and it will help more people see this, which would be nice for me personally. Let me know what you're excited by the most from this live letter in the combat section. Wow, I'm tired. In the comment section below, or the combat section. Try to keep it civil, and I'll be sure to keep an eye on that and engage with you. Thank you kindly for watching, and I'll see you all next time. And now, my friends, it is time to sleep. Bye-bye.